Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about kind of why is this important? You know, what's kind of going on. So I've just got a little exercise. If any of you guys have done it before, just kind of go along with it. But I know a number of you here with your partners, so if you could just turn and look at your partners and actually do it. So like turn and look into your partner's eyes. And if you're not with a partner, and if you've got a partner at home, you can just close your eyes and imagine them. And if you're single, you can imagine someone that you fancy. like you know, if you're in a relationship with someone, right? So really get a clear image. Really get a clear image of, you know, either look into their eyes or get a clear image of the person in your mind. You know, if you're in a romantic relationship, and why is this useful? Well, you know, you're imagining the person. Statistically, the person you are looking at or thinking about is statistically the most likely person to kill you.
Thank you, Ankush. Thank you.
So just in case you're wondering why this is important.
We need to recognize it. Oh.
I think most of them.
Yeah, well.
So that door slam is
Yeah. That was it.
Because your father talks
well, it was kind of like a little bit of a joke, but you know, it just kind of shows for me that, you know, we can get really lost. We can really get lost with those people that are closest to us. Like it was kind of a funny comment, but it's also like, if you think about it, that's also kind of strange in a way, isn't it? Right? And I was reading something just yesterday, and it said, again, because of this truth, whenever, and maybe Will knows this better than me, but you know, if a husband or wife is found murdered, the primary suspect tends to be their partner. And he's right. So he goes, but in what it should be is they should be the last person that you look at. But in relationships, we forget this. We forget this lightheartedness. And it can, and if we don't see that, it can drop down so low, and you can fall out of that so much that this is, and it's unfortunate, but this is what happens.
There's so much invested in it.
Right. There's so much thought, and then thought upon thought, and then we create this whole meaning and matrix, and we get away from the truth of what the other person is, like you were saying, that they're just a human being like you are. You know, again, some of you have heard this before, but I won't go through the exercise, but you know, there is an exercise where people say, you know, imagine someone you're in conflict with. Right? Imagine someone you're in conflict with, and if you think you were doing your best in that situation, the best that you know how, raise your hand. And when you tend to ask this question, and we did this a couple of weeks ago, I gave a talk, and everyone raises their hands. And then they say, right, now think about the other person that you're in conflict with. Do you think they are doing the best in the situation that they know how? And about a third of the hands go up. Now what's really interesting is this is pretty true, like directionally the numbers are true. Whatever group you do this exercise in. Now what does that tell us? That pretty much 100% of the time, every single person, regardless, thinks they're doing the best that they know given the situation. And when I first read about this, I was in conflict with someone in my job, and I really thought this person was, out to make my life a misery, or really difficult on purpose, and whatever. And when I read this in a book and I was reading it, and I thought, hold on, let me just think about it. If this person did this exercise too, would they really not raise their hand if someone asked them, are you doing the best you can in your relationship with Ankush? And I thought, yeah, he would definitely put his hand And then that gave me a little bit of space, and I was like, oh, okay, there's something going on here. And I thought if I asked him, is Ankush doing his SP, he probably wouldn't put his hand up. And so we were both in the same boat. Now that again tells me, well, there's something that we've got in common here. We're both not seeing something, we're both not communicating in the proper way. And what happened was actually with that same person, over the coming months, my relationship with him changed completely. Much, much, much better than what it had been before when I had forgotten this. When I had been like, no, they are definitely out to make my life difficult. But I'm the one that's called out, I'm doing my best, and how come they don't see it? And as I was forgetting, this is a funny thing, as I was, kind of funny in a sad way, as I was forgetting this, it was like I was putting layers on top of this fictional character I was creating. Because I didn't see the person, I didn't see his point of view. It was like, okay, they're like this, at first they just get a bit angry. And then it's like, oh, and they do this on purpose, and then they do this on purpose, and then they like this, and then I create this whole image of this person, which was completely fictional. And guess what? I couldn't relate to them because you're going into any conversation going, well, you're a bit of a so-and-so. And when I dropped that, when I started to see that they were doing their best too, a really interesting thing started to happen. All of a sudden they weren't so bad. And then as I changed, they started, like, I remember a few days they were like having a nice conversation with me, and I was like, oh, what's going on? What's happened to them? And really they hadn't changed at all. And I spoke to a colleague of mine who was talking to them, and they said, that person said to the colleague, oh, Ankush is really different. So all that had changed was I had changed the way I was thinking about them. It's not like they needed to go back into their default setting, because he didn't change. The only thing that happened was I changed how I related to him. And then the whole relationship completely changed. So that's something else maybe to note as well, that I think someone said before, it's like when both parties are in the default state, you communicate better, great. But you know what, in most conflict situations, if you're going to hang around for the other person to get back to their default state, it's going to be very, very difficult. It's not going to happen a lot of the time. But what we can do is we can see inside ourselves, and we can change the way we react. And we can see, okay, well, I'm not in a great place now, so forget about them, let me just come back to myself. And I'm not saying it works all the time, but I'm amazed in my own life. I don't know about you, Gabby, but I'm amazed in my own life how much that changes the relationship I have with other people. Quite dramatically in some cases.
I was just remembering, this is a true story. I was really afraid of mice. Really petrified of mice, really, really bad. And Will was working one day, and I was in the backyard. I love gardening, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see this. And I'm like, huh. And then I'm pulling whatever I'm pulling, and then in my head, I'm like, that's a mouse. So I leave everything, and I am panicked. I don't know if any of you have any kind of like phobias or anything, but your heart starts kind of palpitating and all. And so I go in the house and I close the door and I lock the door, and I'm like shaking, okay, just shaking. And I called my best friend, and she wasn't there, so then I called Will, and I'm like, oh my God, Will. He goes, yes, are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. But I have to tell you something, okay, what happened? I was in the backyard, and there was a mouse. I just know there was a mouse. There was a rat probably, And he says to me, where are you? And I'm like, I'm inside the house. Where is the mouse? He's outside the house. And he goes, whatever you do, do not open the door and let him in, right?
It's a good light-hearted answer.
I'm like, oh, shut up, right? We started laughing. The reason why I'm saying that is because if one person can be in a good place, it can transform the relationship in a moment. This was really deep because, I was really, like, almost hyperventilating about this mouse, right? So it's like,
Have you recovered from that phobia?
I'm actually a lot better.
Okay.
I'm actually a lot better. I know where I got it. You know, I saw my mom being really afraid of mice. And she would tell me these horror stories that I don't know if it's true or not, but she believed it, and then I believed it, right? But I just appreciate so much the lightheartedness in that. You know, he could have said to me, well, you know, Shush, you're thinking, you know, all that stuff that we talk about, why didn't you put it in perspective? That would have not been helpful at that moment, right? But something occurred that was lighthearted, that just kind of shifted us onto that. So you're the only person in your relationship that needs to know that. You're it. So imagine if we were able to discover the humanity and the cuteness of our partners, or our brothers, or our team, or whatever. What if we like open our eyes and saw them at their most foundational essence of a human being? What do you think would happen? God bless you. You have your hand up too.
About 45 minutes ago.
Do you remember what you were going to say? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, carry on. I've got one
Carry on,
interruption.
okay. So, what happens when we see, you know, that essence in people, that people are like, oh. What happens if we were to experience that more and more with the people around us? Okay, we're going to use the mic.
Oprah's back.
We're more connected, compassionate.
So what would happen for you personally, you think, if you felt more compassion and more connected to those around you?
I feel more light-hearted, free, enjoying life more.
So could that be helpful to our relationship? Right? If she was more lighthearted, or I'm not saying that you're not, but you know, like if there is like this purity of love coming from your partner, and you can sense it, can that be helpful? Yeah. That'd be great. That's great. Here, you were gonna say something.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Okay. So what's the question? What was, you just asked a question. What was the question?
If you saw the world in a more light-hearted manner, how would your experience be? Or something along those lines, just a question.
Yes. Is it helpful in your relationship to see the humanity of the person that you're with, right? We have a cat in our home. His name is Honey. He has a nickname, Pitu. And we can be in a really bad mood. And here's this little being. He does nothing, you know, he doesn't do anything. His job is just to be a cat. And our job is to feed him and take care of him. It's so amazing how we can turn around and look at him, and our whole little heart swells up with love. Right? And we even like go like, oh honey, you know, and we do all the silly stuff. And sometimes we do that with each other. And it's
It's
nice.
useful that you've got the same names though.
Honey.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just like, it's so nice when your partner sees your humanity. Like you can have a really difficult conversation, and if your partner is just extending kindness and joy to you.
Everyone has a cat or a dog.
You
But
know,
they do say that animal kind of owners do do find time to be a bit more affectionate and more relaxed when they have the dog or their cat kind of in their lap and stuff. So I guess there's some truth behind that.
Do I address that?
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know, I've said all I wanted to say.
Okay, so
No, that's it, you're on the spot now, you got
Oh,
Okay, so that's what you said.
no, I just said that I read anyway that animal lovers who have cats and dogs or anything that I guess that they can kind of pet or whatever generally kind of are more affectionate and they tend to be the more relaxed in general because they find having another being, not a human being, another animal, actually kind of calms them down. So should everyone have a cat or a dog? I would love a dog, so if you can get my husband to get me a dog, that'd be great.
That's a good question. Ask your husband that.
So, I rode horses with the police department for 4 years, and after I retired, I volunteered in this program called Dream Power, and it was equine therapy. So I used to handle the horses for these folks that would treat kids with that were autistic, and also veterans that had traumatic brain injuries from the war. And we'd get these little autistic kids that were, some of them were functioning well, others needed more help. But one of the transformations that I used to see is that the kids would come in there and they didn't seem very happy. And as soon as you got them near the horse or on top of a horse, they'd have these big smiles on their faces, and then you take them off, and then it was, I don't know, they just got this big joy out of the animal, you know, and I don't know if the animal brought it out in them, brought the joy out, but that's something that I think they've done studies, and that's a fact that animals calm you down. But the other story I wanted to share was during that I was also I read a book that somebody gave me, and it was another equine therapy program, and I believe it was in Arizona. And these guys used to treat troubled kids from juvenile hall and stuff. And the story went that this kid came to the ranch one day, and the handler told him, he says, "Hey, I want you to get this rope and go put it around that horse's neck and see if you can catch him." And the kid was described as very troubled, didn't want to talk to anybody, was just cussing at people and stuff like that. He's very troubled. So when he went to get the horse wanted nothing to do with him. He'd run away every time he got close to him. And he'd run away every time he got close to him. So the horse was sensing this bad energy or negative energy. So the counselor started talking to this guy, to the kid, and eventually the kid broke down as to what was troubling him, and he started crying and everything. And they were next to the railing. At that time, the horse came over and put his head on the kid's shoulder, as he picked up now that all the barriers he took the barriers away. The horse sensed that, and he went over and put his head on his shoulder, and that's all he needed to do. And they can sense that, the same way we sense other people.
Did you say the name of the book?
I don't remember it.
Oh. The name of the book is It's Not the Horse.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's not the horse.
It's not about the horse.
Yeah. So, it's not about the cat, and it's not about the dog. Although you can love cats and dogs.
Yeah, no, I do feel that actually having a pet with, I think you've got something else that you can get that lightheartedness with a starting point to then relax yourself. So I do think there is some benefit.
You
And I
consider
think
it
it's
nice?
No, they're not cute. They're not, it has to
See,
be dog.
because I've noticed this is what happens, okay? Because we want to get, what's going on? Is it cats, dogs, how come not mice, or armadillos, right? What's going on?
I think people also say if you are dog lovers and cat lovers, comparing them with your husband and wife, see dogs and cats don't hit you back. But wife and husband can hit you back.
Hit you back.
And that's and argue back.
Yeah, but
That's-
you would never be nicer to a dog, or I wouldn't be anyway. I mean, like, the dog's just doggy, isn't it?
Okay,
I know,
so,
but the husband can always have go back at you. You can't have the same relationship as you can have with the cat and the dog.
this is a really good point. What's your name again?
Dina.
Okay, so this is, I want you kind of like to, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have a cat or a dog, okay? Or whatever else you want to. This is what happens, okay? Immediately when you look at it, if you like dogs or cats, what happens internally as you're seeing a dog or a cat? Oh.
Not necessarily. I see a dog, my daughter see a dog. Ah. Because when she was 2 years old, this Alsatian followed her in the park. And now she said, dog said, She can't even, that affects her.
Right,
She's
right.
about 40 now.
Yes. So the thing was, if you like cats and dogs, generally, what tends to happen is you look at it and you're like, oh, right? When you look at your partner, not so often do we go, oh, not so often. Because we have a lot of opinions about our partners, like your daughter has about the dog. See, it's so interesting because we have accepted the fact in our household that the cat's job is just to be a cat. That's his job. We accepted the fact that he actually gets our walls dirty. He does all these little things that I kind of would get annoyed if he was a person. But I'm like, oh, right? So it's just, my only point is this. There is such a powerful connection between the quality of our relationship and what's happening inside of us right here. So if you want to have a funner relationship, the place to start is right here. Like, notice, what's your thinking about your partner? Do you have a lot of judgment about your partner? Or about your team? Or about your mom? Well, no wonder we'd have such a great time with them. Right? It's not the horse. It's not the horse. And it's not the cat. Oh, you can have a cat if you want. And it's not this partner. Because some people change partners a lot. Right? It's not that. It's us. If we come to the party with a sense of lightheartedness, right? Could we have a really nice experience about our partner? So this is like, you mean to tell me that it has to start with me?
And this is the same for, there's some people in the room who are single, and we did a webinar on dating, and it's exactly the same thing. If you're approaching a date with this heaviness and, seriousness and judgment and everything else, then no wonder that's why you see people who are serial daters. And, you shared a great story in your podcast that we did, where you met your husband and with Will, and you're approaching it from a very light-hearted point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, now that you're going back and you're looking at dating maybe, notice, this is what Ankush and I were talking about is, a lot of people when they're dating, there's a lot of heaviness in their head, right? It's like, well, what if this, what if that? Is he the father of my kids, even though we're just going to the movie for the first time, right? Like, all this heaviness, right? Well, how are we going to have a fun time if all that heaviness is in our heads? Now, what if we just went out and played it by ear? Like, what's the worst thing that could happen if you just play it by ear?
I don't know. That makes perfect sense. I run my own business, and that's what I do in my business every day. I play it by ear, and I'm really used to being in the unknown when it comes to business. It's really all freaking out about you're working out. Dating? just like, well, what if this, what if that? I've got so much future thinking
Yeah.
about what that means and what that text means. And it's crazy, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
It really is. But at the same time, this today kind of made sense that you can just like have a conversation and you don't have to work out whether it's your husband or not, you know? So I'm happy with it.
So, there is something that you know for sure, that there is something valuable about kind of playing it by ear. Another way of saying that is, let your wisdom guide you. You know, and if you need to pay bills, of course you're going to pay bills, right? If you need to write an email, of course you're going to write an email. If you need to make a bid, of course you're going to write a bid, right? You know that, and you see that clearly in your business. Well, that is also true when you're dating, right? You can go and have coffee, or you can go and have dinner, or maybe you can even go on vacation with this person, right, if you wanted to, right? And we can play it by ear, right? And then all of a sudden things start going south, right? Well, look, things can change at any moment. You can actually have a thought and say, you know what, it's time to go home. Or it's time to have a conversation, or it's time to take, I don't know, a walk on the beach. But you can trust the fact that what is true for you in business is also true for you in relationships.